deal with internal issues within your own society and the differences between them. And a big part of this book was all those differences being worked through as a result of these foreign invaders coming in. But the reconciliation between the Orishans is breezed over, and it's extra breezed over because the sense of who the skulls are and why they are represented of a bigger evil to the Orishans than what they've already committed upon each other, just in their views, because their views of each other, the Magi's versus the Mudbloods, I guess. I don't remember what the No Power people were called, but just that battle has been going on for centuries, and so there's so much bad blood. So you would think that you would need a bigger boogeyman to really represent this force that would unify them, or you needed to put more work into showing the work that they did to get where they were. And so I think that that was one of the aspects that really robbed this book of having an impact for me. The magic system, as I mentioned, the many different magic systems, I breezed through them and I won't go into them, but there are so much stuff introduced. The ways that they are interactive with each other are implied in a lot of places, and it's so unsure that it's really hard to feel like there's a risk of anything happening. I mean, Zelly is brought back from the brink of death twice through the sacrifice of other people. So it's just like, does death truly mean that much? And I get she is a necromancer and her relationship to death differs and everything, but we don't even really get that much of a dive into that. And at the end of the day, it's just the magic system is too sporadic, and there's too much that we're learning alongside these new magic systems while we're trying to follow along with this crazy plot that the main characters are just rolling along with, because there's just not enough time to truly break down what they have an issue with. Mae is the princess of... Actually, before I talk about Mae, I think a better way to talk about her is by first talking about the romance. I think that the romance between Zelly and Inan became blah, like it was whatever. For it to have built up over 3 books, the ending of it, especially with him dying, it was just like, okay. But the bigger question mark for me is this new romance that pops up between Amari and Mae, the princess of this new land, which, to be covering so much in this 3rd book and then think that you're going to introduce a new character and then insert her into this love triangle between Amari and Zane, who are in this love-hate relationship because they were deeply in love and have unresolved feelings because Amari ends up betraying both Zelly and Zane at the end of the 2nd book. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, supposedly Zane and Amari are supposed to be working through their emotional issues with each other, but all the while Amari is falling in love with Mae, who, as a character, like as a person, she's a good person, but as a character, she's so uninteresting. She comes in as like this savior character. She's always helpful to the main characters. She actually sides with them and disobeys her emperor at some point for them. And it's just like, why? Like, why are you so down for these strangers? And okay, maybe you're compelled by your goddess to be that way, but there's just no edge to her. She doesn't have any complications that come up. All she does is just be a cool person, which in a toothless book, well, I won't go that far, but in a book where a lot of the complications of character that characters might experience with all this going on is breezed over, I think it's really lost that this part is also breezed over a lot. And Amari falling in love with Mae, I feel like, is maybe the worst character for this to happen with, because for one, her whole arc throughout this series has kind of been her trying to find her sense of self, her belief in self to be like, yo, this is who I am and this is what I choose. She was the first person to turn against her parents, but she's very wishy-washy. I mean, she ends up betraying Zane. That's their whole thing in the second book, Zane and Zelly. So for her to then, in the middle of her betraying her last love interest and having this loss of sense of self, and then glomming her personality onto a new love interest as she finds herself again, it's like it's so hard to believe in her personal development, as opposed to her just finding a new person she likes and then coalescing her personality around them. You know, it just kind of makes it so it's like, I don't know if she actually grew at all. And that's kind of just the feel of this book. We don't really get a deep dive into any of the characters and how all these machinations affect them. And so much of this book occurs so far from the original stakes and conversation of the series that it loses its connection to the narrative of the series as a whole. If this was set in Orisha for most of it, then maybe all these new magic systems and stuff would have been easier to digest because we still have all this context. So yeah, I'm disappointed in the book, but I don't think that it's a bad book. I just think that it's a book that did not capitalize off of all that it built. And so after 5 years, it's very disappointing. But I mean, just as a basic YA book, it's cool. It's about, 3 stars, even though I don't want to give like 3 out of 5, by the way, but I don't want to give like a specific rating to a lot of art nowadays because it feels a little too static for how art should exist, where it grows and changes and, but I will just say that having just finished the book, I didn't really think it was that well written, and I hope that there is more to come, either in this world or in this series, because I don't think that the world or the plot of it was really wrapped up that well. But those are my thoughts on this. Hopefully the whole day of attempting to do this, I finally wrapped up my thoughts, and if you guys have any thoughts, please reach out. The whole point of this really is just so I have some people to argue about all the main media books that I read, because people talk about shows and movies, but there are very few people that I can actually talk about the books that I read. So I just have all these noises in my head that I have to get out. But if you didn't find this through my website, it's kinku.com. Go check it out. I do audio dramas, book reviews, music reviews, and I'll see you guys later.